Hello, my fellow well hackers. This is Erwin Cito bringing you the Truth About Real Estate Investing show. I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy in every way. And never forget that mental health is part of being healthy. Yesterday, we shaved my head son as I was getting a bit long. He's got nothing on his dad, though. For those who are tuned into the video version, I'll take my hat off. I haven't looked like this since high school. Actually, I had a lot more hair in high school, too. Anyways, back in high school, I had shoulder length hair in the early years of high school, like grade 9, grade 10, as I was an avid Metallica fan, a headbanger, if you will. I posted a picture on Facebook, on my Facebook, asking what my friends think I should do. If I should keep growing it out. I wanted to support local, so I was thinking I would not cut my hair until my barber's back at work. But it's driving me bonkers. More importantly, it's driving my family bonkers, specifically Cherry. So I actually had to confirm with my mom if I've ever had a shaved head before. As far as I know, as back as my memory goes, I never had a shaved head, but I wanted to go back to like pre-memory days, before my earliest memories of getting bowl cuts from my mom in the kitchen. Literally, she would put a bowl in my head, like a steel bowl, to guide her scissors as you cut around my head. I was definitely the coolest kid in school with a bowl cut, and also the kid that didn't speak much English. My, how far we've come. We just hosted the all new Stock Hacker Academy to over 200 students this past weekend. And again, I used to not speak English very well, and then I had to give about 3-4 hours of presentations over the weekend to over 200 people. And as always, we're always looking to improve upon each and every event that we do. This past event was no different. Thank you all for the kind words from all the students who attended, and thank you for all the past students who provided feedback, so that would help us improve the course for new students. Of course, this was all new. The course was completely unrecognizable from the previous course, especially thanks to my coach and mentor Lee Lowell. And it was a ton of work, but it was incredibly rewarding. I'm now recording this on Wednesday. The weekend crash course ended Sunday. I did a demo on Monday. I'm recording this now on Wednesday, and I'm only starting to feel recovered. Thankfully, it's been another winning week of trading while we're at home. While we're all staying at home and safe, both Cherry and I are keeping busy and having fun while doing so. For anyone who's at home keeping score, Cherry is up on me at 6 weeks to none, as in her results are better than mine for the last 6 weeks. I think we're pretty close this week, but we will see. And for the gentlemen listening to this show, if your wife is looking to make some side income, I don't know why they're not doing this. Again, my wife's better at this than I am. Real estate wise, not much to update. We did have a fridge die in one of our rental properties. This was in our executive rental in Etobicoke, just west of Toronto. The house in the fridge is somewhere around 10 to 12 years old, somewhere around there. Now these tenants, they rarely call because the house is newer. So Cherry, quote unquote, manages the house, if you can call it that. Tenants call maybe twice a year, so we don't have a property manager for this one. The phone call comes in. Our first suspicion is that it's a problem in paying rent. But no, it's just a fridge. In the grand scheme of things, yes, the fridge is pricey. It costs more than the fridge we have in our own home, and more than the fridge that we just bought for our office. But it's still less than 1 month's rent, so not too big a deal. Our tenants are super grateful that they actually get to choose the fridge if we let them pick the fridge, and they also seemed like they're missing having adult conversations as they chatted with Cherry for quite some time. Cherry's actually near their son's age, and actually their son's an accountant too, and worked at two of the same places that Cherry used to work at. Small world. But having a great low maintenance property with a low maintenance tenant and our tenants who happen to have incomes like a doctor, because one of them is a doctor, it makes this business a pleasure. So I'm enjoying trading. I'm enjoying real estate. life is good. On to this week's show. As a real estate nerd, I do enjoy reviewing real estate market stats. I do pretty much every month. I look at my own local stats in Hamilton, Burlington. I also look at the Toronto Real Estate Board stats. However, we as wealth hackers know that stats are great for general consumption, like for the masses that are out there. However, none of us are investing in an average piece of real estate. And the smart money, we all invest in investment grade real estate. There's no stats for this. This is why I reached out to some of the best investor agents I know who are in the top markets for investing in the areas just outside the Greater Toronto Area, the GTA. Since we all focus on primarily cash flow, this group of realtors is the type of people I usually talk to. These are the people when I want to know what's going on the ground. These are the people I call up. So this is a market update show, and again we have agents from as far west as London, Ontario. We have Justin Konikow from Prime Real Estate. We have Rob Brake, who works the same brokerage that I do at Rockstar Real Estate, all the way to the east end, who covers Durham, such as Oshawa and Peterborough. Most of you know him from the very popular Breakthrough podcast. To the great white north of Barrie, Ontario, we have John Beddome, representing Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. From my own team, we have Tim Hong, and also from my own team, finally, not the leastest. Whew. All right. Remember, I learned English as a second language. Last but not least, we have the duplex queen from Hamilton, also on my team, the iWIN real estate team, Tammy DiTommaso. So to me, this episode's a special treat, as again, whenever I have questions about a certain market, I know who to call. These people happen to be the people that I call, and I invited them and I asked them if they would do me a favor in order to share with my audience, all of you, what's going on in the market. In case anyone is worried about there, that's why I brought these people together, to give you like on the ground updates on what's going on in real estate, both with resale property and tenants and property management. All right. So I hope you enjoy the show. Without further ado, I give you Justin, John, Rob, Tim, and Tammy. What I want to do here was, there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of fear out there, a lot of misinformation. I see some stuff about people saying like the real estate market's coming was crumbling. The thing though is, for most of us here, and especially our panelists, we're very well defined in the range that we invest in. For example, we're all geographic specialists on this call. That's why I specifically reached out to people that all across Ontario, the greater GTA area. So you have Justin Konikow here. He's from London, Ontario. We have John Beddome all the way at the Great North. John, did you get snow today in Barrie? I bet you did. John, did you get snow today?
Yesterday. It's actually nice here today.
Yesterday. We, of course, have the duplex queen, Tammy DiTommaso, who's on my team, and Tim Hong, who's on my team as well. And also we have the team leader, James Maggs. So like Tim is born and raised in Waterloo. He went to Waterloo University. He invests there. He knows that city very well, monitors it daily and he sends out a weekly email as well on the sale prices for KWC. Again, we have Duplex Queen, who is quite dominant in Hamilton. We have James Maggs from my team as well. For those who don't know, I think most people know who I am. I feel I'm a high D personality, so I don't like talking about myself. But to explain, quick summary, popular podcast, 4-time winner of Realtor of the Year to investors. So that's enough from me. I'm more interested in hearing what's going on in the market. So Justin, I know, needs to go early. So we're going to start in London. We're going to start as far west as we can go. Right. So Justin, has the local market just fallen apart? Are homeowners burning their houses because they're worthless now? Insurance money is better than what the resale value is, right?
Not at all. I think it's funny. Yeah, it's what you said, right? Like there's a ton of misinformation. I haven't actually watched any of the major addresses or news in the last week. It's been the best thing for me on the face of the earth, because I think everybody was stuck in that kind of same wheelhouse where, you're watching what the media is putting out there, and you want to be cautious, right? Like I do want to put an asterisk and a caveat that on my side of the fence, I am very conservative by nature, right? It's how I'm wired. I always prepare for the worst, but I also want to be able to adapt and deploy in the best situations. Like, for everybody on this panel, I know that, you're all likely in the same situation that I am, that if they put a green light up tomorrow, you're probably ready to go. Where I'd say like 3/4 of our industry isn't. They're Netflixing, they're doing everything but working on their business. And then all of a sudden when they open up the gates, things are going to change and they're not going to be able to catch up. So, when we started seeing all this, I was actually in the States. Like, it was early March. One of my clients happened to be on the Biowarfare Council for the Department of National Defense. So he was giving me some insights into kind of what was happening. And I was like, well, we're going to be gone for a month. Like, do I need to come home? And initially, like, it was the same information that everybody else was getting, that you'll be fine. Like, you know what, they've got a handle on things. They're really kind of planning to see where it's going to go. And then mid-March to, let's say, mid-April was really when things ramped up and kind of peaked, right? And you really started hearing that narrative that you're hearing now, in terms of, everything's falling apart, prepare for the worst case situation. And I mean, to a certain extent, how the government reacted to everything is how they reacted. I don't think they had a plan for a situation like this, which I think is a bit of a shame. You would think that the leaders of your country are in a position where, their goal is to do like modeling like this and prepare. And that's why we pay them. But unfortunately, I think the money in politics lead to a situation where they're just worried about getting elected every 4 years. No, this happened. Okay, let's figure it out. We don't really have any answers. So, where I think the market was for London and surrounding area pre-COVID was really the peak, right? Like 2017, like all your other markets, like everybody else, we were as crazy as every other market. We really got hit with the GTA effect. London was on the world or North American stage in terms of one of the top places to invest. We were seeing multiple offers, properties going for 100,000 over asking price. 2018-19 was like this, like for everybody else. You'd find these little pockets where it was madness, and then you'd find these little breathing rooms where you could get good deals and it wasn't as competitive. January to March this year for us, right back to 2017. Like, I was basically prepping everybody for the fact that we're going to be in multiples almost every single time, prepping every seller for, more aggressive pricing strategies and really setting new records in different neighborhoods. But when this all happened, it did grind to a halt, right? Like, all of a sudden, I would say 70% of our agents were just sitting at home. They weren't going out. They weren't showing properties. But as with everything else in real estate, when you have 30% of agents out there doing things, the other agents are sitting back thinking, well, I got to get out, I got to work, and other investors are picking up deals. So maybe I should be looking at opportunities and properties. And our industry is a very, very adaptive one. They always say, I think it was Phil from that Modern Family show that said, real estate agents just a ninja in a blazer. It's one of those things where you find a way to make it work. I have bolt cutters and axes in my truck. I've been through a lot of different situations where you wouldn't think I was doing the things I had to do, but you just do what you have to do to get the job done. So, I sit on 3 different boards in my market, and I'm on the brokerage advisory, the MLS board, and professional standards. So we spend a lot of time, I'd say almost the first 2 weeks, systems and processes. How can we do business safely? How can we do business virtually? Put systems in place so that we don't even really go see a property unless it's under contract. So, like, even when we're vetting properties, the way we do walkthroughs virtually, dealing with tenants in properties and getting appraisals and all that stuff, we started paying tenants to shoot videos for us. Like, just really thinking out of the box in terms of ways of still being able to conduct business without really disrupting people or putting people at risk. Because I would say, again, let me put on my conservative hat, let's play worst case scenario, and you infect somebody with COVID and they die. There's going to be litigation and things that come from that, right? There's lawyers that I work with on a high level that were really kind of giving me insights as to what they were hearing. So I'd say the first probably week, 2 weeks was that, standard of care. Agents are showing my properties. I'm sending them indemnifications to sign. They're asking me what those sheets are. And really, it's just an education, right? Now, as of the last week, like, dude, like, we listed half a dozen properties in the last 3 days. We put 5 under contract last week. We're probably involved in 6 other bids this week. And I haven't really had to leave here but twice. So, the public's perception, I think, is everything's falling apart. You're going to get properties, for pennies on the dollar. I'm going to burst that bubble and make your lives a lot easier. Because when your buyer's calling, you're like, let's throw $100,000 under asking price on this property. And you turn around and you say, well, no, the prices are holding. The number of deals are changing, but the prices are still holding. I think that's what the public's going to have to adapt to. And I'm very curious. I don't have a crystal ball, but if there's going to be a rush of inventory because everybody's like, well, I can still get a good dollar for my property and I want to get to it before the economy collapses, in which, we flood it with listings, all of a sudden you're in a buyer's market, right? So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Right. So what do you feel? What's your feeling? Is it buyer's market, seller's market?
It's always a buyer and seller's market. Depends on what you're looking at. Even in like 2017 or the height, or even in March, like we're still smashing deals, but it's a deal by deal basis, right? Like I kind of make my offers independent of if there's 10 offers or 5 offers. Like if the numbers work, the numbers work.
Right.
And we're very, very big on off market deals. So I'd say like
Right.
60% of our investment inventory never hits the market. We have a very kind of small group of people that will, small group, there's 736 people on that mailing list, but they're across North America, and we have a team of 15 people that we work with in our territory. So we're very much a consultant approach to real estate. Real estate. So by the time we bring them the deal, if it's signed off on, we just tie it up. So I still think, you're in a buyer's market from the standpoint that you can find deals and make deals happen. But you're still in a seller's market where if you have the right product type and price point, you're still seeing 10 offers on a property or 6 offers on a property. So it's kind of a case by case basis.
Right. Wow. Still, all the way in London still.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
All right, John, let's throw it to you to the north. What are you seeing? Buyer's market, seller's market, neutral? Are people giving back their keys to the bank? Throwing keys to the bank? Take it back. I don't want it anymore.
Not at all. I mean, prices really are holding. Not a lot to add to what Justin said. He really covered a lot. Market's very similar here. Obviously volume's down. A lot of people are putting their plans on hold. It's the right thing to do in a lot of situations. But still, stuff is going through. For the first part of April, prices were 2% less than they were for the first part of April in 2019. So that basically puts us back to about March prices, because again, like Justin mentioned, January, February, March, really on fire. And, things are on hold in a lot of cases. But to add a little bit on to what Justin mentioned about, the way we do business now, I would urge investors to, work with investment-focused mortgage agent that can really give you an update, because, things are changing. Don't assume that because you got a certain deal when you spoke to them in January that's going to be the case now. It may even be a better deal. But yeah, there's always people out there that they want to just go poke around and take a look. And, there's a lot of things you can do before you go to look at a property. Get that update. You can drive the neighborhood, run the numbers. Really, with an investment, it comes down to numbers, right? So buying properties sight unseen is nothing new. For investors, you focus on the numbers, you get it under contract, then you go check it out when you're there with your professional inspector.
James, I'll ask you a question while we're waiting for him. How are appraisers doing things in your market? Are they going through properties? Are appraisals happening?
They are happening, but they're not. None of them are in person. From what I understand, it's. I just had one, and this even goes back 2 weeks, and it was a drive-by appraisal. The appraiser walked around the outside of the property, took a quick look, asked me to send pictures, one of each room. Didn't ask for a picture of the furnace room, didn't ask for a picture of the panel, didn't ask for any of that stuff. It was really just a picture of the inside of the house to make sure that the finishes were similar to the other finishes I guess they could pull up on MLS to do their comparable. And that was it. And it actually came in at a really good number. So I was very happy with that. And that seems to be the case. I haven't heard of any appraisals through the house. I think Irwin did just have one that was a little bit different through RBC, where they actually asked for pictures of the furnace, pictures of the electrical panel, all the major mechanical stuff. So I guess it depends on the appraisal company, but for the most part, they're all being done, but they're just not being done in person.
Yeah, I had one too recently where they did ask for the same. They asked for the furnace, the picture of the electrical, and I had all the kids clean their rooms really good. I said, I got to take a picture. I got to send it to the appraiser. So everyone cleaned up, and I took all the pictures. The appraiser came out, did the outside like you had mentioned, and then when he messaged me, he actually messaged my husband, who didn't check his email, so I didn't have the information to send him the pictures. So I thought maybe they didn't need them. They ended up needing them, and by that time the house got a little messy again. But they said, yeah, send us what you got. It's fine. But when I took the pictures, I was a little strategic because I can't. My floor tiles, I haven't changed them since I moved in the house. They're ugly, to be honest. So I strategically took pictures that don't show the tiles, But then when you read the description, they say to you, make sure you can see the tile, or you can see the floors, and you can see them. I thought, you know what, if they re-ask, I'll deal with it then. And they didn't ask, so I was good. And my appraisal came in high at what I wanted it to as well. So
I don't know if anyone saw, but Danilo posted in the chats that he had to do a Zoom appraisal, and it still cost him $400. That's different. Like James mentioned, in my own appraisal, we had a whole checklist of at least 10 pictures. They wanted mechanicals, they wanted all the rooms, bathrooms inside the garage, and if this appraisal was for RBC, but again, the appraiser doesn't work for RBC; they're independent. So actually, Tammy, since you want to continue on, are sellers running like this? Yeah. They don't want their houses anymore. Market's falling apart.
I'll be honest, at first when this all happened, and I'd say like going back to what Justice said maybe about a month ago, there was fear. There's definitely a lot of our investors that were wanting to not purchase or wait it out and see what was happening. And I don't know if I feel like I don't know if things have just settled in a little bit and people are starting to get a little bit more accustomed to how we're doing things right now, but I am getting a lot more positive feedback than I did even, let's say, a month ago. There's always going to be people that have their own thoughts and so on, and I would never push anything on everyone. Everyone's entitled, and this is obviously something different we're all dealing with. But I mean, as far as what the other guys have mentioned too, yeah, we're the same. Hamilton's the same, low inventory. Yet what's out there and what is coming out is still solid. The prices are, sorry, kids. Apparently they don't listen to instructions. But yeah, the prices are still staying pretty, they're listing where we were listing before. So let's say if a house was worth $450, it's still selling at around that price point, or they're still receiving that. So we're not noticing major drops, or people obviously getting more than what they're asking. Maybe a little bit, but not a lot, right? So they're still floating around there, so that's still good. I was looking at our listings that had sold in the last even just 30 days in Hamilton, and we still had 400 sales, and even one of those was $2 million home. I mean, there's still people are still certainly buying, is my point. Yeah. And I did two listing presentations as well recently.
So the market's still moving.
Still moving.
There is a lot of fear out there, but it sounds like things are still moving. And then for people who think the market's going to correct, just some simple math. For example, I threw a number out there. I just wanted to see what a 10% correction looked like. So I only had to go back to November last year. We had to go back to November's prices to get back to for a retrenchment of 10%. So to me, that's not the end of the world. I will not lose a wink of sleep over that personally. And I have all of us here have fair sized portfolios. Like Rob is actually in the middle of buying a property. Rob, actually, can you unmute yourself, Rob? Sorry about the coordinates issue. My apologies that Rob's late. It's not his fault. So in case anyone doesn't know, Rob has, I'm pretty confident that he's the top real estate podcast in Canada. So honored to have Rob Brake here. East Side, East. Do we do East singles? Is this a gang signal? I'm trying to be cool.
Not out here.
No, that's not cool out there. That's not the thing they do out there. Oh, they
I don't
do
know
D's,
if it
right?
is. I'm definitely uncool, so I wouldn't know about it anyway if it was the cool thing. But you look sharp, Erwin. Nice jacket.
I put a jacket on a t-shirt.
Nice.
I'm still wearing my Adidas gym pants.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I am in the middle of buying something. I locked it up on Good Friday. So
Yeah.
I think there's definitely this is the time to find some good deals.
Right. You're not backing out of the deal. You're not going to give the keys back, burn it down.
I'm afraid something's going to happen. They won't let me buy it. I don't know. No, it's a good deal.
Excellent. And it's in Peterborough, right? Because I know you do a lot in Durham. You do Peterborough, some Lindsay as well.
No, I don't know anything about Lindsay.
No, okay.
Try to stay focused on those two markets. So, really, it's just Durham and Peterborough.
Mm-hmm.
So, just so I can stay up on all the regulations and stuff, because most people are doing the second suite thing, right? Or in Peterborough, they've got a really interesting way of allowing almost like rooming houses, but they call them large dwelling unit, where they allow up to like 10 bedrooms in a student rental. Assuming that you have the room and you're not like there's no fire code violations and getting that many people in the house. I only have 3 investors that have done 8 bedrooms. We don't have any that have done 10 yet, but mine, here, I'll show you the flyer. I already got an investor for it, but this is the one I bought. It's going to have 10 bedrooms. So
It's a big house.
I'm super pumped about that. Yes. 4,000 square feet, not including the basement. It's giant.
Dude, that's almost a mansion.
Wow.
I'm super pumped about it. I'll do a video tour next time I can get in.
Can't wait.
But no, I would say things have definitely slowed down a little bit for me. Like I'm doing a lot of private YouTube videos for investors now, where if they're interested in something and if I see something that I think is a good investment, I'll go out and I'll do the video. I was doing that before, but a lot more of it now. And then I'll just send it out to everyone I think will be interested in that kind of property. So just a little bit more of that. But I would say I agree on the prices holding. Maybe dropped off just a little tiny bit, but not really much to speak of as far as I'm concerned. Like all of the deals that we've been, like all of the offers that we've been putting in are still in multiples in Durham anyways. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be doing my property tours in a different way now. So I'll just go out and do those videos like I was talking about. And then I'll post them as I would for the announcement for the tour, right? It'll just be, hey, here's the tour. And then they can click on it and get all the videos. So that's what I'm going to implement now. So I think that'll be pretty good, because we were seeing like usually around 8 to 10 investors on a tour. I was doing them every 2 weeks. So those people are jonesing for properties, and the only way to really see them safely now is through that kind of approach.
Right. Yeah, I think it was Tammy that got a confirmation message that required everyone to be that was viewing the property. Tammy, can you share?
Yeah.
That was yours, right?
Yeah, that was me. The one thing I have obviously noticed, and you guys have probably seen too, that the showing restrictions, I mean, like filling out the questionnaires, I've had to fill out so much paperwork.
Justin sends a liability form and indemnification form. I love it.
Yeah.
And and then one of the confirmations I have on a showing we're going to go to later this afternoon is saying that we absolutely, all of us, have to have a mask on, gloves on, and eye goggles. So
you have your eye goggles ready?
No, I thought I was looking for my dad's safety goggles. I can't find them. I'm left with maybe my son's Speedo swimwear. I'm not even sure. I have like fake glasses I didn't get the prescription for yet. I'm writing on them, but maybe I'll wear those. I don't even know what I'm gonna do. But yeah, everyone, that's definitely one of the things that we're seeing there, because we put in, and they'll ask you the questions and they'll make sure, but then I'm actually getting the additional paperwork that I have to go in and make sure that we check marked everything we signed. And one of my investors, I put it so that they do their own check marks, right? I didn't want to check mark for them. And my Hello sign, my DocuSign that I use, it came back saying it was complete, but she didn't do the check marks. And they noticed right away, and they said, oh, I think my wife missed that part. Can you check? And I didn't even look because it said complete on my end. So I'm like, okay, great. Sends it off to the other agent. And they said, is there a reason why they didn't fill this out? Oh, shoot, that was my bad.
Something.
Like, oh no, we're good. I'll send it back.
You get a hazmat suit.
Yeah. So.
Mervin,
yeah.
I did want to say, just on the just while we were talking about inspections and that kind of thing and appraisals. So I'm not like as far as I know, I have I paid for an appraisal the other day. I believe they're going out. I haven't heard any differently. And then just clients of mine 2 days ago on Wednesday had a final inspection for their reno, and that was in Peterborough. And as far as like going forward with applications for renovations and that kind of thing, the city of Oshawa at least has opened up online applications, where before you had to do them in person, they weren't taking them online, and Peterborough was already doing that. So
so right, Rob, you mentioned you had an inspector come out to do a final inspection.
Yes.
And they came.
Yeah, they came
in a hazmat suit, goggles.
I wasn't there. I just asked my client because I saw them right before that. I did some showings, and then they went off and did that, but they said that it went smoothly. I didn't ask him what he was wearing, but he showed up apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I didn't think anyone was showing anymore. Oh, we have 2 instances of Tim. Tim, I don't know if you had any recent final inspections, but so if anyone doesn't know Tim, Tim's on my team. Born and raised in Waterloo, went to Waterloo U. Hopefully he's still here. He maybe just Tim, you still there? There's Tim. Tim, what are you seeing in Waterloo? Because I KWC, because I always joke with you, it's a runaway train, that market. So it's has that train at least stopped, gone into neutral? And when I mean runaway train, it does not. It takes like one breath every time there's any sort of correction.
Yeah, just give me a second here. I gotta because I just switched from my phone to my computer.
You sound good.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there? All right. So Kitchener itself, there's still pretty much multiple offers on every single property that we're putting into. The price points, because I do my sold list every single week, I'm tracking stats very actively. And this past week's stats, we actually saw a slight drop off. So to give you some perspective, last week there was 52 homes sold in the KW region. And this past week, Thursday to Thursday, was down to 35.
Sales or listings? Sorry.
Sales. So, and the week prior, so the last week of March to the first 2 days of April, there was about 72 homes sold, I think it was. So 75. So there was a good drop off since 2 weeks ago, or the end of March, end of beginning of April.
Do you have days on market by chance? Do you have that handy?
That one not off the top of my head, no. But to give you an idea of sale price for this past week was 100.7% of list price. So everything that's being listed at the price, it's pretty much selling at list price. Mm-hmm. The week prior was just over 101.7. And to give some perspective, for all of March was 106. So we are seeing a slight drop from 6% over asking to at asking price.
So it doesn't really sound like much of a drop off. And
the actual list price has dropped off. The average list price in March was just averaging 560. This past week was 510.
Right.
Smaller sample size because you're only getting 35 homes. So take that in with a grain of salt, because 2 homes at a couple $1 million could skew that very heavily, or vice versa. 2 homes that are much cheaper could skew that, or less homes that are bigger are selling. So take that as a grain of salt. I'm looking more for the actual list sale to list price.
Right. And for anyone who's newer to investing in real estate, most of us here on the panel, and I'm sure most of you on this call, we had similar training. Most of us are investing in investment property. So that's not your $1.7 million, $1.2 million detached 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, unless you're Rob Brake and he's got 10-bedroom. But we're not in the premium market. And just from what Tim's sharing, if you have a premium home, I don't see a reason why you'd be trying to list in this market. I can't imagine anything over like 900 grand in KWC is even trying to sell in this market, let alone would it move. Would you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, it's the homes that we're looking for are still in the starter category, and price points are continuing as is. Nothing crazy has gone off to it. Mm-hmm. So there are, again, the prices looks like it's not as many listings, so not as much inventory for us buyers, especially for us investors, but the ones that are good are still getting multiples.
This is interesting because my first assessment when this all happened about a month ago, my first thought was we'd see less offers. And then as more information became available, things got a lot worse. Yet the market is not as bad as I thought it would be originally, which is interesting. So we've talked about how good or bad the market is. You can all make your own determination around that. John Beddome up in Barrie, where it snowed yesterday, he made that really good point. And then let's talk about how to capitalize on this opportunity. Like John made a really good point. Like I've mentioned this many times, those with cash and credit will win in any sort of correction, downturn, opportunistic time. Also, you need the know-how. That's what a lot of people are just missing. My favorite is when beginners say, I'm gonna wait for the correction and I'm gonna jump in, but they lack the know-how. So John, actually you in our conversation we talked recently, you talked about your own tenant situation. Mm-hmm. Can you share? Like you have over 10 properties, right?
Yeah. So my last late tenant paid earlier this week, which was great. I had a few people who.
So you're 100% whole.
I'm 100% whole.
Right.
Yeah. And from my clients and other investors in the area, I'm hearing that that's mostly the case, with a difference in lower income properties, right? Like the types of properties that I invest in and most of my clients invest in are nicer apartments, nicer single family places. And I think, a lot of these people, they worked really hard to, pay their rent because they don't have another place to move to. A lot of my tenants have families, it's their home. They're very comfortable there. So, we're working with people that, are having problems. And it's working out very well. And, that gives me a lot of comfort as an investor too. Like the rental demand is still really high. That has not really changed much at all. So, this could be an opportunity for investors to, seek out find that good deal that attracts a really good tenant profile, and you're still going to get, really good rents. That's my main risk as an investor really is if my places are full, people are paying, it doesn't matter to me what the prices are going to do because I'm a long-term investor. I know in the long run I'll win on appreciation eventually.
Right. Actually, let me ask everyone: is anyone selling right now? Is anyone selling from their own portfolio at all? Nobody.
Oh, buying opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, no. We have a lot of agents here. Like, how many of your clients are selling at this time? Justin's shaking his head.
I have a client that just renovated a couple places, so it's great. Just listed one yesterday. We got 7 showings already. I'm putting another one on next week. And
sorry, 7 showings over what period of time, John?
Which is gold in this market, right? They're 7 showings booked within. Well, we listed it. Yeah, it's not even 24 hours yet, and we got 7 showings. So yeah, it's gonna go, and it's a lot easier, if it's occupied, a lot more tricky. Vacant and newly renovated, all cleaned and sanitized. We still do the COVID-19 declaration forms. It's mandatory, and it's for safety as well as for liability. People just basically have to sign off saying that they haven't traveled within the last couple of weeks. They're not, ill. And, also we do really good virtual tours. So, I urge, buyers to take a really good look at that before you just quickly, want to run out and see it. You can tell a lot from the tour.
Amazing. Thanks, John. Yeah, it sounds like 7 showings booked in 24 hours. For anyone who's not in the business, that's quite good.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I'm impressed there's that many people looking. James, what are you seeing? Because you have a lot of oversight to my own team because you've basically taken over the day-to-day of the team. What are you seeing?
For sure. And I actually wanted to bring up a point. Like we were talking about, because most of us are investors and we're looking at the starter family market. So that market seems to have really been, marginally impacted, if at all. Like, Tim went into some of the details on the numbers from Hamilton, but if you look at the March stats year over year from 2019 to 2020, prices are up 16%. Sales are actually up in March, sales are up by, 7? There's 7 more sales in 2020 than there were in March of 2019. So, we're going to probably see a bigger impact in April, but for now, there really hasn't been an impact in that starter family market, which is where most of these sales occur. And the other thing is that I have a client, we have a listing, it's a higher price listing in Burlington. And looking at stats there, we're kind of keeping an eye on that on a week-to-week basis. But currently there's 136 active listings over 900,000. And in the past 2 weeks, there's been 6 sales. So super, super low percentage of those homes. But if you look down, anything under 900,000, which in Burlington is closer to the starter family market, there's 36 listings and there's been 16 sales. So percentage-wise, we're seeing the vast majority of those sales are in that starter family market. And that's been probably consistent if you look at any of the cities that we've talked about today. So other than having to shift our strategies to, from an investor standpoint, virtual tours and submitting offers conditional upon even seeing the property, which I've done, and we were able to successfully pick up a property last week doing that. Really, there's not a huge number of impacts to us from an investor standpoint. So we'll see some changes and a slowdown over the next little while, but I think it's going to be a good buying opportunity for a lot of people.
I thought the buying opportunity would have come a lot sooner, considering how bad things are, considering the number of
Agreed.
the amount of unemployment. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I'm wondering if people were just
one thing that.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just think a lot of people were fingers crossed that already had active listings and they weren't doing price reductions. So I'm starting to see fairly consistent an amount of price reductions where they had priced it based on pre-COVID numbers, and now they're starting to realize that, okay, the market's going to slow. They're not going to get 17 offers on this property, and we have to price it a little bit more reasonably for the lower number of buyers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now I want to talk about tenants now, because like John shared about his experience. I have 30 tenants, including commercial. I had 2 tenants reach out to me saying they couldn't pay April. Just so happened they live in the same house. It's a legal duplex. Both upstairs and downstairs cannot pay rent for April. So we deferred that mortgage. Otherwise, to me, this isn't a really big deal. What's everyone else seeing? Does anyone want to start?
I'll jump in just from our side of things. Mm-hmm. We haven't had any delinquent payments, but I think a lot of it has
zero.
Nothing. No, like there's been a lot of people that have done deferred rents, like we'll pay you in a couple of weeks, or like they wanted to get obviously that money that the government's printing left, right, and center right now, and happy to work with them in those regards. But the language has been very, very important to us that it's strictly a deferral. There's no reductions of rent, like making sure everything's documented. We're very big on making sure everything has a paper trail. It doesn't matter if I'm working with a seller, buyer, or tenant. I have a conversation. I usually have an email drafted, and then as soon as I hang up, I hit send. And then that way it's documented that you had that discussion. And, treating them like human beings is a big thing, right? Like it sounds like, and I'm just getting to know some of you guys, you all run very similar businesses to what we do, where we've kind of picked the niche type of people we want to work with. We don't work with let's call it D and F class tenants that are professional tenants that will milk every single thing that they can, and you're the big bad guy. They understand that us and our investors have families, that we have mouths to feed. We're not rich beyond that we can just take hits, because it could lead to somebody else owning the property and it not being as favorable a situation. So I think communication was absolutely key to address your point in terms of timelines and opportunities. Personally, I think the major opportunities haven't come yet, because what happens to real estate today comes out in the wash 60 to 90 days from now. I think a lot of small businesses, even if we do start opening up and let's call it the next 30 to 60, whatever that looks like, a lot of them are going to close, right? Like, unfortunately, it's going to be a big culling of the herd in the standpoint that some people won't be able to make it through this. They'll adapt to new markets. I think as a community, if we're there to support those people, opportunities will come from that. We've seen opportunities with some large multifamily stuff. So our firm, we do residential, commercial investing. I have a team for each one of those things. I oversee the entire team, but I know how to make a sauce, so I kind of know the language. But the relationships are mostly through me. And a lot of the commercial landlords that have multiple holdings, say big retail plazas, office buildings, and apartment buildings, I've been in close contact with, because I do know some of them, like some of their large AAA tenants just said, we're not paying you. Like, I hope we can do business after this, and we hope you're still your tenant, but sue me, right? Like large AAA tenants that are nationals that you would be shocked if I said their name. So those guys sometimes are looking for more cash injections. And if I'm approaching them with a property that I would have paid over market for, 3 or 4 months ago, now conversation is like, hey, listen, we'll pay market or what the thing's actually worth, given the upside and the numbers. would that help you right now? And quite often these guys have had these properties for 15 or 20 years, and they're open to creative structures to help them pay off the capital gains, whatever that looks like. They just seems like they're a little bit looser right now. And we locked up a 23 and a 38 last week that way, just by being there to say, hey, you need to chat, and kind of timing is everything with those types of properties, right?
Fabulous. Rob, are you seeing much in the East End?
Sorry, as far as what? Like,
actually,
not paying?
Not paying. And actually, I just want to give folks a small update. In our own market in Hamilton, I polled 2 of the bigger property managers, for example. One had delinquency of about 15%. And I think it was John that mentioned earlier, like I know this property manager has more large apartment buildings, and large apartment buildings in Hamilton, especially the lower city, usually is lower income. So I wasn't surprised to hear that he had a higher delinquency rate than my other property manager, who is under 10%, because he focuses on, he works with mostly our clientele. So we focus on a higher clientele. Actually, John, I meant to ask you, can you give a range of your rents so people have an idea of what like a mid-level rental range looks like?
$950 to $1,750. I mean, there's all different types, from smaller apartment to
right.
A home, 3-bedroom home for $1,750, right?
Right.
It's one of the people asked an interesting question. They asked, is anybody doing rent increases these days? And we had a whole bunch that we were just about to send out. It was that time of year for a large chunk of them. And I decided to hold it off. I just, the timing of the whole thing, waiting a few months until I put those out. I just didn't feel, there was a few that we had put out before things started, and we've still gone through, but for the most part, we're just going to wait a little bit on that. I don't know how other people are doing that, but that was our decision.
I didn't even N4 my tenants. Don't do what I do, folks. Cherry and I are just big softies. Like, one of them's a single mom. I'm not going to N4 her. We actually offered, I think we actually asked her for a resume because we have some work that needs to be done on the team. Rob, what do you see in the East End? What are you hearing?
Well, I haven't heard too much about tenants not paying. I've been fairly surprised, just like everyone else here is saying. Myself, I had 2 tenants that gave me partial rents, and it wasn't that attitude that I was sort of expecting of, we're not paying. Do what you want to do about it. Like, that's just not there as far as I can see.
Yeah.
They're very respectfully saying, look, I'm having a little bit of difficulty now, and here's what I can do. And since then, one of the tenants has paid fully, and the other one's still behind a little bit. But I mean, and that's the same story I'm hearing from everybody. Basically, is that there's a few, and they're dealing with them, in the way that we have to right now, which is a little bit of compassion, understanding. Realizing that some people aren't working or not making any money at all right now. So the other thing though that I am seeing, and I thought this was interesting because I never even really thought about it, was with the student rental turnovers that are supposed to happen in May. There is a lot of pushback from the tenants not wanting new people moving in, the existing tenants that are staying. So that was something I never even considered before. Mm-hmm. And it's not happening at mine, but I've heard it from some property managers.
So it's the students that are staying and the new tenants. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Right. So something I never even considered before. But when they're supposed to be turnover in May, a lot of them are saying, wait, we don't want new people moving in here.
Yes, come close. I have to talk to my property manager about my own students. I have some students from China who stayed, which I think is kind of smart, because for anyone who doesn't know, if you go back to China, you were put into government quarantine for 2 weeks, and they're students, so I don't know how they would continue with their studying. And so they decided to stay in the house, which is fine by me. Like, this is their right. But come May 1st, I don't know what their plans are since they're not staying. So I should probably look into that. Thanks for the reminder. Like, Tim, you have students too. Are you having any issue collecting rent? And also in your condo tenants, any issues?
No, so I actually just filled one of my rooms for May 1st. Everything virtual with the student. So showed them the video tour, pictures, did the online application, and then I just did a Zoom call with them to see them in person, to see who they are, what they look like.
Right.
And they paid last month's rent, and they are going in for May 1st. It's a co-op student actually from Kitchener, moving to Mississauga area for co-op.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how much for the room?
$700.
John, I think you charged too little for what you get for $950. Tim's getting $700 for a room.
That's a shared room with 5 other people.
You need to find 5 other people, John. Then the rent will go up.
That one's in Mississauga, so that campus, the UTM campus, is pretty good for summer tenants in general. So I've never had a vacancy in that one at all.
Fascinating. Wait, are they going to class in the summer?
It's a co-op student that's
so they'll be going to work.
They're going to be going to work, yeah.
Okay.
And their work's not going to be affected by all this stuff that's going on.
Fascinating. Well, good for them. They're okay. Everyone's working from home these days, so I'm surprised they needed to move physically for this.
Yeah, they're actually I believe they're working at a processing plant, like a meat processing plant or something like that. So they have to be in there.
Okay, very good. Essential service. Oh, food supply, essential service.
Yeah.
Tammy, what do you like? You've sold a lot of duplexes lately. Any issues? Because we've talked about, like, many of us deal with duplexes. Like you and I believe it's the number one investment strategy there is, because, could you, if you had a listing for one and it was priced fairly, how many offers do you think you would get?
Oh my goodness. I wish somebody had some listings for me, actually. We have some investors that are more nervous than others, and we have some that are ready to buy. But yeah, with that inventory being low, but I would say some of the challenges right now we have is that with the investors that are going to go out and want to buy a property to turn into a duplex, I mean, our biggest struggle is obviously making sure with the permits and the construction, right? The renovation process and how they've been delayed, our contractors and so on. So the best advice I think at that point is, do the numbers still work? Can we make it work, knowing that we are going to have a little bit of a hold and we're going to have some delays, and knowing that you're still going to have it in the end and got your hands on a property? Because I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think things are going to blow up a little later, and everyone that's ready now is going, and then there's going to be them ready later and maybe even more ready later, right? So that's just my take on it. But yeah, there's definitely some delays there. It's a little bit difficult with some of the permits that we're getting, even zoning verifications coming back late. I mean, the city's been pretty good, and the inspectors have been pretty good with working around the properties that we do have in motion.
Right.
But if
do they come in person? The inspectors still come in person?
Yeah, they did. But the place had to be vacant, and we're fortunate too, because our relationship that we have with the relationship that the inspectors have, our contractors have with the inspectors, is really, I think, helps big time too, because you know what I mean, because they have like a relationship to say, listen, we've got all this in order, you can see all this, and then they've gone ahead and closed maybe some permits where maybe on other times they have waited. So I mean, even with COVID happening, I feel like people are trying to work together a little bit more, but there's definitely some delays. And then I think another you guys were talking about with tenants, me personally, I noticed that in March, middle March, I'd say there, it was a little bit slower trying to find some tenants. So I don't know if everyone felt the same, but I feel like it's picked up again, because we never usually have any issues with finding tenants and putting tenants into any of the units, but it was a little bit slow. And I think there was also that adjustment period, because we had to do, I don't know if Tim had mentioned it, but I know we do like virtual showings of the units, either via video. I had some that wanted to, I had applied first before seeing it. They just went by the pictures and then they came to see it afterwards. I got in trouble from someone said, I'm not filling that out. That's private information. How dare you? And so on. And I said, I didn't force you. I just gave you that option. So, but I get that too. I understood, where he's coming from. But yeah, we did change the system a little bit and it's worked out. But I do have an investor who recently just posted his up for unit for 1,800 and he's getting flooded with tenants wanting to see it. So I think we're getting a little back on track. Yeah.
For any landlords who feel bad about collecting information, just think about how much money you put up. How much money did you put up for your investment, right? Versus the tenant is putting up last month's rent. So don't feel bad about asking for information because you're lending them something you probably dropped 200 grand into that you're on the hook for around 400 to 600 grand to the bank, right? So never feel bad about collecting information up front, right? All right, awesome. All right, we're running out of time. So we'll handle some of these questions in the chat if my team doesn't mind answering them. Any final words, folks? Does anyone, so I think most of you think the market will get softer probably as time goes. Maybe. This is already way tighter a market than I thought it would be. Anyone want to jump in on that?
Well, I'll just say that if people are selling now, there's definitely a reason for it, right? If they don't have a reason, then they're just going to hold off. So
right.
I would say that it's a good time to find deals.
Right. I'm just thinking that seller, though, will probably run into 4 offers.
Yeah, most likely they will. But, I think that there's a lot less people out there looking. So, when it does come down to the amount of properties that are still on the market, and there's a surprising amount of them, that somewhere in there is some gold to be found.
Right. And for anyone who does need to sell, I can't recommend that you list it properly with the proper agent if you want multiple offers. If you sell it on your own, I don't know what your chances are getting multiple offers. I'll just say that. I'll just put that out there.
My opinion, I'll jump in with kind of my sign off, is twofold. One is just from a risk standpoint, right? Like we work with all kinds of investors. We've kind of picked the niche that we want to work with, but we are aware that there's some investors that are happy to buy the worst properties on the face of the earth, never see them, and let the cards fall where they may. Sometimes they make a lot of money on deals because they buy stuff sight unseen at prices that anybody would love to get that deal at. But they're also understanding that they walk into properties where they probably lose a couple $100,000, but they want a net result. So, you have other investors on the other end of the spectrum that are brand new that want to get to a certain number of doors, don't really know how to get there, and everybody in between. What I would recommend is if you're one of those investors, I would build in about a 30% risk factor into whatever you're doing and get super dialed in on your numbers. So even if you fall like somewhere in the middle, unless it's a knockout deal, I'm really not looking at it right now. I'm dialing in my systems because that's the other part of my comment I want to make is, everybody always says we don't have enough time to work on our business. Well, start putting things in place now to free up more of your time. Calendly.com. I spent like 45 minutes setting it up the other day, literally booked probably 35 appointments with it because it just very narrowly says, hey, you got 15 minutes with Justin. This is your topic. Let's go. Or you got 30 minutes or 60 minutes. And it really has saved me so much time in the last couple of weeks. So I would say work on your business. And if you're one of those investors that doesn't really know how to get to a place that you want to be, find people around you and get around them and start offering your time for free to help them run numbers, help them find deals, help them find properties, and take a look at what they're doing. Because Erwin, I know you and I have a lot of mutual connections in the investing space, and I've been talking to a lot about them about what they're doing, and they're either getting liquid and being prepared to find opportunities and execute, or they're battening down the hatches and they're doing exactly what I'm saying. They're looking at their systems. So a couple of them have taken on some people that are mentees in that regard and are kind of coaching them along how to get through a time like this. Because at the end of the day, none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know if this is going to be 6 months or 3 years. My thoughts are don't buy anything unless the numbers work or you're prepared to hold it for a decade or 20 years. If the deal works then, do it. Build your portfolio. And those deals are out there, but I wouldn't rush headlong into something and don't get emotional about deals.
Totally agree. I buy everything with a 10-year horizon. I think we're probably all on the same page where we think real estate prices will be in 10 years. Like the simple question I say to somebody is, would you be surprised if your house doubled in 10 years? Most people say no. And I usually say, don't you think you should have another one then? They spent all this money printing. All right, so we're out of time, folks. I think everyone knows where to find all of you. You're all pretty famous. Feel free to put your social media handle or your website. Like Rob, go ahead and put your cell phone number in the chat so everyone can call you. Tim, you already posted where you can get your sales numbers from. Tammy, I don't know, TikTok, I don't know. wait, does anyone here have TikTok?
That makes me sound young. I'll take it.
Yeah, just you have TikTok? Oh man.
Yeah, I sure do. Actually, I have one video that is going like semi-viral right now. I shot with a mask on at a $1.3 million log home in the bush. I'm like, hey, you want to self-isolate? Here you go. So.
Oh man, I saw that someone threw that headline. Someone threw that headline out there for a rental ad. Could you see yourself self-isolating here?
Think about it though, right? Like, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but if you knew that you could, jump on Instagram in 2012 and get the clout and the ability to really expand your business that quickly, everybody would rush to it, right? That's what TikTok is right now. Just nobody's really doing it, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I thought it was all about dancing. I don't know.
Go search people that are in the field you want to be in and watch Salerno Real Estate in Toronto. He's killing it, and he's jumped platforms and he's doing really well with it.
Good for him. Good for him. All right, Tammy, you're our team TikTok expert.
Yeah, right.
Tammy, thank you. Justin from London, thank you. Tammy's from Hamilton. Tim's from KW. He actually lives in Mississauga now. You can invest with him anywhere. Rob, dominant in the East. Top podcast in Canada. John Beddome, North, Barrie, Innisfil. What else you got up there?
Aurelia, Angus.
Angus, thank you. Yeah, I heard a lot of people. There's probably a lot of housing demand at the Angus Army base, isn't there?
Yeah, the base is expanding. They're hiring a lot of people right now, so bringing people in.
Great jobs. See, jobs, opportunity. I'm sure those people will need housing. Thank you, John. Yeah. Rob, thanks again. James, who's like holding a pose. Thanks, James. Thanks everyone for being here. Hope this all helped everyone. If anyone has more questions, if you need to hop on a call, just let us know and we can do that for you. All right. We're on this together. We're doing this again Friday. We're going to have an accountant on. These government programs keep coming out. These tax benefits, these different options for the government to print money and give people money. It's actually incredibly inclusive, which we shouldn't be surprised from Justin Trudeau. He's being incredibly inclusive with who he gives money to. So make sure you're on that. So you make sure that if you qualify for that money, you may as well at least know about it, and you can make a decision about whether or not to take it or not. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy your lunches.
Thanks,
all right.
Bye,
stay safe.
You.
Wash your hands for 20 minutes. Stay 3 meters away from people. Sign indemnification forms. All right. Thanks, everyone.